Hello everyone, it's time to do another deck profile, this time on the Blue Deathster deck post set 10. Or you can simply call it the Vanguard deck, but the archetype name is called Blue Deathster, so I go by Blue Deathster. So anyway, what do I think about the deck? It's just fun to play, and it's a mech deck that many people have been craving for a while, in OverDress format anyway, because, well, this is technically the first mech deck we got if you don't count Orphis. In a way, Orphis is a robot, but in technicality, this is a full-on superhero mech deck for OverDress. And it's, of course, military style as well, so there is that as well. But anyway, like I said, the deck is just fun, and I would have to say, probably one of the better budget options out there. It's not even really expensive to build. The only expensive card is really Vanguard himself. You can probably say about $10 each copy. That's about it. Everything else is like very cheap cards that you could just get for the deck. So if you're a budget player and you want to start somewhere and you want something like cool robots or cool mechs, this is probably a deck to recommend for you, just saying. But anyway, how the deck runs? Well, it's a brand gate deck, so of course it's going to be revolving around set orders, and it revolves around having a specific starter and soul. Keep that one in mind because depending on the matchup, you can accidentally lose that card in soul. You don't want that because if you lose it, your deck is dead. I'm just going to tell you that right now. The other thing to keep in mind is that it's a bit of a Persona Ride based deck. It's not required for Persona Ride, but it's better with the Persona Ride. But on that, it's just overall just a fun deck. It revolves around a specific new set order called strategy cards, and I'll show you how it works later. But on that, let's just get on with the deck profile. We start off with the Ride deck. Blue Deathster 0 period. This is a very important starter. You have to run this card for this deck, and it will be explained why right now. 2. Blue Deathster Dark Verdict Vandilis. So when you write the grade 2 Blue Deathster Heavenly Death Ray Sylvain on top of it, while you have 0 period in soul, hence why it's the most important starter of the deck. You can search your deck for one grade 1 strategy card and put it to your hand. If you don't add a card to your hand, you call this to rearguard. Basically, the idea here is that Sora period is the pilot, hence why it has the soul requirement. And I actually like this little connection here, I'm not gonna lie. But of course I said there's that one inherent weakness now. As you can tell, you need the Sora period in soul. So if you accidentally lose it, your deck is dead. So just keep that in mind. But this is just a typical grade 1 ride line that just searches out your set order, in which the grade 2 practically does the same thing, where when you ride upon it with the grade 3, in this case Vanguard, while you have the Sora period in soul, you search your deck for a grade 2 strategy card from your deck and put it to your hand. If you can't search, you call this to rearguard. So once again, it's another way to get plus. Soul is not an issue for this deck, spoiler alert, unless you're going up against a certain matchup, but overall soul is just not an issue. And just typical grade 2 to set up your plays basically. In which we go to Blue Deathster Sky Raider Avangarta. So it has one skill. If you have the Sora period in soul, you can play this skill where you put a strategy card from your order zone and put it to your soul, and then you draw a card, and then until the end of the turn, it gets plus 5 key power and this specific ability. Auto once per turn. At the end of battle, this card attacked. If an attack hit a Vanguard, or if you Persona Ride during the turn, you can counter blast 1, discard a card, stand this unit, and drive -1 until the end of that battle. This is just basically a restanding Vanguard. It requires you to attack hit on your first grade 3 ride, unless you play the Regalia's piece. Or 2, if you Persona Ride, you're guaranteed the restand. And basically, it's a Vanguard attack hit pressure card in the early game, which isn't actually too bad, by the way, because it just forces your opponent to block, and it could be a lot of cards because it gets plus 5 key power on its own already. But during Persona Ride turns, just for its restand, it's pretty powerful. And on top of that, you get to draw a card. That is pretty decent right there. Overall, it's just pretty cool. Nothing super crazy, but just overall, just pretty cool. And now to the main deck itself. First off, you of course need to run 3 more because this is a Persona Ride deck technically, so you have to try to get your Persona Ride here. And now let's get to the set orders, or the strategy cards, because they're the most important cards for this deck. So first off, we're going to start off with the grade 1 strategy card. Disruption Strategy Kill Shroud. So when you put this to soul from the order zone, choose one of your opponent's rearguards and retire it, and then choose one of your vanguards. It gives plus 5k power until the end of turn. Hence why Vanguard sucks them from the order zone to soul, and by default you don't have a soul problem usually, unless if you lose specific cards in soul by other means. But for the most part, soul is not even an issue because, well, Vanguard literally just gives you soul from this and activates abilities on top of it. This is just here, so you can retire one of your opponent's rearguards, and it's searchable through the grade 1 of the Rye line, so you just have to run it. For now, I am running 1, but I am going to bump this up to 2 because I don't have my second copy yet. And that's because I want more consistency to search my strategy cards now, because you want to activate as many as you can. Which we go to the grade 2 strategy, which is going to be searchable with the grade 2. 2 copies of Bomber strategy Dusting. So when put to soul from the order zone, your Vanguard gets plus 10k power, and then for the attack, your opponent cannot intercept or play blitz order. This is probably a better early game card, just like Disruption strategy, because that one can kill, and technically that one could be played at any good moment, while this one is more so early game, so you can make it easier to attack hit. But sometimes blocking your opponent's defenses is also pretty nice as well. And it's 10k power for 2 attacks on your Vanguard. It depends on the scenario, but this has been useful in quite some cases. And originally I had 1 copy of this, but because of a new card that lets me search more of my cards, I do want the extra consistency of searching it, and also just playing more strategy basically. In which we go to the main strategy card, Shocking Strategy Death Winds, where when you put to soul from order zone, if your opponent's Vanguard is greater or greater, choose one of your Vanguards, it gets this ability. When it attacks, all your front row units is 5k power until the end of the turn. So your Vanguard during a Persona Ride turn will guarantee the 2 attacks of plus 10k power to the whole front row in total. It's not too bad, and that extra power buff for your whole front row can make really big attacks, so this is just your main finisher basically for your strategy. Of course, it depends on scenario too, because sometimes your opponent doesn't have any rear guard, so you don't play the grade 1, and sometimes you don't go to the grade 2 either, because like I said, no rear guard, so it doesn't really happen. So it's just weird at the moment, but so far these 3 are the only strategy cards we have. But this is the main finisher one. So that's for the strategy cards. To the remaining grade 3 lineup. For now, it's the one Evican Vogel, because this is going to get replaced for a grade 1 strategy. But anyway, the skill is, if you still want to play it, because I played this beforehand, on place on rearguard, you can counter plus 1, soul blast 1, search your deck or drop zone for 1 grade 3 set order, reveal it and put it to your hand, and of course, shuffle your deck if you search from deck. And it also has a second ability where auto ones return when your set order is put to the order zone. This card gets plus 5k power until the end of turn. So 18k beater, it's not too bad, fits with the theme. Search is basically your main finisher card of the deck. But as for the moment, I have not really seen too much use for this card, so this could be easily cut down to 0 for another strategy card. So that's it for the grade 3 lineup. For the grade 2 lineup, here's Blue Deathster Sashin Asushi. I'm going to be butchering these names, I'm not going to lie. So when placed on rearguard, you can Soul Blast 2 to choose 1 grade 2 strategy card from your drop zone and put it back to your hand. It's just recycling, and the nice part is, because you're putting those strategy cards to soul and doesn't require you to have that strategy in your drop zone beforehand, you could Soul Blast a strategy card out just to put it back to your hand. So keep that one in mind, but it's just there for recycling if you need it. And then I run... This is a product Welshra card, Reinhardt. So you only use it for this first skill, where when this unit is placed on rearguard, if your order zone has a set order, you can counterblast 1, discard a card, search your deck for up to 1 card with the same card name as your Vanguard, or 1 product, but you're going to ignore that, reveal it and put it in your hand. And then you can choose up to 1 product card from your hand and put it to your order zone, but you're not doing the product part. You only do this to search for the same card name as your Vanguard, aka your Persona Ride. This is a Persona Ride deck, so you just want to search it. And just more ways to get it out is just much better. And then we go to Solid Stroomer. This is just really good because when a card is placed to the order zone from your hand, look at top 5 cards of your deck, choose 1 set order from among them and add to your hand, and this card gives us 5k power into the end turn. This is just basically a free 15k beater that can basically get more set orders that you need. Up to you if you want to run this at 4 or not, but this has been really good, especially sometimes you will be lacking boosters, so just being a 15k beater just really helps. Same thing with Vogel in a way, but Vogel has a cost, so that can be inefficient sometimes. So that's why I say this is probably better. And finally, Enlightenment Age Dragon. This is the Persona Ride card, where if you Persona Ride during the turn, you can Soul Blast 1, discard a card from your hand. This card gets 5k power in the end of the turn, and then choose one set order from your draw zone, put it to your hand, and then choose another set order from your draw zone with a different name and put it to your hand. This is just really good just for recycling, basically. It is locked during Persona Ride, but luckily it's not on play, so there's that. So it could be another rearguard attacker, and just the fact that you could just recycle stuff is just really helpful. So that's it for the grade 2 lineup. To the grade 1 lineup. Here's Blue Deathster Returning, where it's an act. Once per turn, you can Soul Blast 1, discard a card from your hand, choose a grade 1 strategy card from your drop zone, put it in your hand. Right now, there's only one in here, in fact, only one copy of it, so I am going to bump that to 2, but just being able to recycle what you need is just helpful. And then to this new card, Blue Deathster Hanada Halfway. So when placed on rearguard, if your Vanguard is Blue Deathster, you can counterblast and draw a card. This is also nice for early game because you could literally just get a draw out of it. And Counterblast isn't exactly too heavy in this deck because we took out a lot of Counterblast heavy cards already. So this is just overall pretty nice just to get back some of your pluses. Especially the second skill where it makes Counterblast not as much of an issue, where when this card boosts, if you put a strategy card into your order zone this turn, until the end of the turn, this card gives us 2k power. And then if it's in the back row center, aka behind the Vanguard, you countercharge 1. Main countercharger of the deck. Unfortunate, it has to be the back row center, but not too bad for being a 10k booster for your Vanguard because that will hit magic numbers in many occasions, and just being your countercharger. It's not 4-of because, well, it has to be in a specific place for the most part, but I am thinking about running this at 4 just to get the draw. But at the same time, you're probably going to lack space because all the other cards are pretty decent as well. And finally, 4 PGs. And into the trigger lineup, the OT, 8 crits, full on aggression, no questions asked. Draw triggers just to get your pieces. And finally 4 heals, 2 being counter heals. So that's it for this deck profile on my Blue Deathster deck or the Vanguard deck. What do you guys think of it? What other cards would you recommend? So far, I've been liking the deck. I haven't actually thought of actually wanting to build this deck, but it looks so fun and pretty cool that I actually just ended up building it anyway. And overall, I've been having pretty much fun with it. I actually like the idea of playing strategy cards and just using them for soul. So that is pretty cool. And also the design wise just looks pretty cool. Pretty much the first mech based deck in OverDress, which is a nice reference to Dimensional Police. I remember playing Dimensional Police back in the day, or Nova Grappler as well, but I didn't play Nova Grappler, I played Dimensional Police. But overall it's just cool, and overall it's just fun. But in that's it for this. But in I really don't have much to say about it other than maybe we will get a cool new form and maybe more strategy cards. Because the 3 is decent, but I think we could probably go for one more strategy card and maybe a new form of Vanguard would be nice too, because Sam looks like a pretty important character enough to get a new form. Who knows, a strategy card to make your Vanguard go Overlord? Who knows, maybe a strategy card that makes your Vanguard go critical, aka it would get an extra crit from it. That would probably be a cool idea. But in that's it for this, and see you all next time.